Hey guys, so welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. So today we'll be doing kind of like a market review where I talk about what I sold, what sold the best, what didn't really sell, and kind of the price point, and also an overall just kind of rundown of how the market went, because it was an outdoor market, so lots of things can go wrong with an outdoor market. So when we got there, it was pretty hot. Like, we had not been outside all day, and we went outside and we were just dying of heat because it was like 32 degrees Celsius, which in our town is very hot. It never happens. So and it was an outdoor market, so that was just the worst thing ever because it was way too hot for us to have a lot of traffic. There was pretty much no one there, except for at the beginning. There was quite a few people that came through, but towards the end we had almost no one. So it was kind of pretty empty because of the absolute, like, how hot it was. It was crazy. And since it was right over supper, then we only had to be there like around like sometime in the afternoon to get set up. So it was a pretty good time range. And when we got there, we were placed in front of a bush and a tree, and the sunlight was like coming right towards us, but thankfully we had a tent. Even though we had the tent though, it was still very hot. So we put out all our stuff, but even before we got like everything out on the table, people were coming by, like kids vendors and like vendors themselves were coming by, and they were looking at our stuff. There was so much traffic before the sale began, but we had been told we weren't allowed to sell anything before 5 o'clock, which was when the sale began. And so we had to tell a few people that because they didn't know. And then finally the buzzer went off, and there were these two kids that had been looking at our booth. They'd been looking like at our table, and they'd been looking at all the things we had there. And they were like, as soon as that buzzer goes, we're coming back. So then they ran back and they started buying stuff like right away. And I didn't even have time to shut the box that we had like to keep the money in because people were coming and buying stuff like right away. And so pretty much everyone that passed our table bought something, I would say. It was pretty full that way. And so I have a lot of crocheted stuffies and stuff like that, which I'm crocheting one right now actually. And the main things that I had that sold the best were bees and turtles. They're just like little ones. I'll put in pictures if I can find them. And they were both velvet, except one of them I had velvet and normal yarn for that one. But I found out that like a lot of the velvet and blanket yarn, chenille yarn, stuff like that, that sold right away. Like everybody wanted the fluffy stuff. And actually the first thing that I sold to those two kids was this giant cat squish. I'll also find a picture of that and put that in. And it was one of my more pricier items, but I know my prices are not as expensive as they could be. They're actually pretty cheap for crocheted items. It was $10 or around that mark, I think. And that one sold right away, which I was surprised about. I mean, I wasn't surprised because the cat squish was adorable, but I thought maybe the price point would make people like kind of not want to buy it. And then right away I sold a bee and a turtle. And for the rest of the sale, it was just bees and turtles. They were going like crazy. Everybody loved the bees. And some people liked the octopi. I was surprised not more of these sold because they were very cute and I really loved them. But only the big ones that were fluffy sold. So I think people really are drawn to the things that are like fluffy, that you can has a texture, more than like the ones that are not fluffy. So I think people chose the fluffy stuff like right away, and that was like their first choice. So that was mostly what sold. So the cat, the bees, the turtles, some octopi. Oh, I sold one of my bucket hats, which I was surprised about because not most people in our town I would think would buy a bucket hat. A lot of people thought it was like a kid's hat or something, and so they didn't really want to buy it because I guess maybe they didn't know somebody. But then there was somebody who came along, and I think they were buying it for a younger kid, and I was like, uh-oh, because it fit me. And I kind of didn't think it would fit someone that was like, I don't know, like probably a toddler or something. I thought, I don't know if that's gonna fit. I'll have to grow into it. Before that, we sold this Peep, and it was also made out of blanket yarn. It was bright pink. It was like hot pink. I was surprised that that sold, but I guess the blanket yarn really does draw people in. And then I also sold another thing made out of blanket yarn, was this mushroom I had, and it was like hot pink with a white stem. It looked so ugly, and I thought nobody would know what it was, but everybody knew instantly, and they loved it. Like, a lot of people looked at it before the sale, but somebody did buy it, and I guess the other people who wanted to buy it probably didn't get that chance. But good thing we sold it, and I was surprised that we did, but I was happy that we did. And I also made earrings, and I make scrunchies as well, but my earrings actually sold very well because, well, actually I don't know why, but they were a very good seller this time, and I guess for the summer a lot of people maybe like some stuff like that, the earrings, and they do look pretty professional, so I get that. But they were also a little more expensive because I use surgical steel, which costs a lot more money to buy for the posts for than some other kind of metal, and you can't really afford to sell them for much less than that. And that's the average price point I would say that people usually have on these kind of things, the earrings that are made with that kind of metal. And so then I sold 3 pairs of those, and they were also around $10. I forgot to mention, but all the stuffies, all the smaller ones, which I really only had small ones, they were all like priced around the $4 mark, like $3 or $4. So I know to some of you that might be very cheap, and you're probably thinking I'm losing a lot of money on this, but I'm not really losing a whole lot of money. In a small town, it's really hard to sell like more expensive things. Like, people won't buy them. Like, if you're a grandma buying something for your grandchild or something, you don't really want to spend a lot of money if it's just like a little thing. Or if you buy them a few things, like a few treats, you don't want to spend a lot of money. So I think the prices were a really good price range for where I'm selling this, and a lot of people bought stuff, so I did bring in quite the profit because of how many little things sold. It just really did amount to way more than I would have ever thought I would sell at a craft sale. And that was mostly, I think, what sold, but towards the end, we weren't really getting people, and there's a lot of things that didn't sell that people didn't see right away or didn't really want, and so I didn't really sell any of my mini octopi, as I said before. Almost none of my gummy bear keychains sold because they were behind this divider and you couldn't really see them. And my mini frogs also didn't sell. And I also had bags, like little drawstring bags, and they didn't sell. And so I'm doing this, I kind of have this small business, as you know, because I'm at a craft sale, but I have it and I run it with my mom. We both make things, and she makes like these corners for your towels. She makes scrubbies that work amazing. She makes dishcloths and all kinds of stuff you can use for your kitchen. But surprisingly, not a lot of people bought those, which I found really surprising. It was still fun, even though we were like burning hot, full sun, terrible heat. It's probably like one of the worst heat waves we've had here in a long time. It's been like this all week. And also, one thing I was going to mention is that you can find us on Facebook. We are MMK Creations. And if you want to find the things that I'm telling you about and want to buy some of them, they will be up soon, but just be patient and wait for them because it doesn't happen instantly. I hope you enjoyed this video and you'll come back for more.